I was a member of these, what people refer to as these sovereign movement people, and I wanted to shed a little bit of light onto what this is. I've seen some videos online that are mocking these people, and I always, of course, see the arguments that develop between both these sovereign, quote, type of people. I really dislike that word, but I'm using it as a reference so that everyone will know what I'm talking about. These people who are seeking freedom, that sort of thing, often defying authority, defying government. There's a lot of misunderstanding about who these types of people are. They're really just, most of them, not all of them, but many of them are just your everyday folks, your neighbor, who have been at some point harassed by some part of the government, be it a traffic ticket, be it the IRS or state tax issue, or it might be the local code authorities. That's a big one too. And the point that I want to get across that is so often misunderstood, one of the first points I want to make is why there's a lot of anger and fighting is that the people who fight this often go on the assumption that the government employees, be it a cop, a judge, or prosecutor, if they would ever comment on any of these topics or videos, which they never ever do. If they do, it's extremely rare, and that you got to question in and of itself. Now, of course, the government officials and employees that are fighting against these sorts of people online, of course, hold these jobs, so they're of course going to defend them, but they very often don't put enough thought into what it is they're fighting about and why. Meaning, for example, if they do work for the government, do they or don't they support an America that's based on freedom? Do they think that freedom already exists? And can they back it up? And very often they can't. And the people that fight them will either assume that they already know these things and that these people are just plain fascist types who support an America that is not free, or there's just this level of frustration whereby these arguments happen where neither party on either side is really on the same page and understanding each other. For example, the main point I want to drive home is, do these government employees really understand the law or don't they? Now, these sovereign movement people, they go to these groups where they study the law. They study the law really intensely. And then when they go into court, they find that the judge and the prosecutor or the code enforcers, traffic, whoever, are not following the procedures, and they wonder why. And as soon as they begin to wonder why, of course, the answers never come. Even if the person is represented by an attorney or a public defender, even they often won't provide the answers. And this is why so much crap ensues. And what I wanted to impress is that the vast majority of these folks are just normal, everyday folks who are wondering, why don't the police or why don't the judges follow their own laws? And do these people or don't they support a free America? And therefore wonder, are these people just completely out of control? And do these public officials care about the course of America or don't they? And that's where they're at. Now, the glitch that comes in is I was a part of these groups for a very long time, probably over a decade, and I associated with many different groups over the course of that time across America, and encountered some extremely bright people, and I latched on to these people who I felt had the most to offer because they were the most bright. But the glitch is there are a certain percentage of people in these groups and within this, quote, sovereign movement that unfortunately just give it a really bad name. I can remember being at one of these groups once and just thinking to myself, I wish that person was not here. I wish that person was not here, because they're not lending anything to the progress that this movement, quote, is trying to achieve. These people are troublemakers. They're a little bit loony. They have a mindset about things that just is not conducive to accomplishing the goals that I think the most of the sovereign movement would want. Then there's yet another really powerful glitch in this machine. that throws a wrench right into it, and that's the Christian aspect of it. Now, I'm not Christian at all. As a matter of fact, I'm very anti-religion, so I'm somewhat anti-Christianity. I don't want my family exposed to it. I don't believe in it at all. I think it holds very little value, and I say the same about all religions. A lot of these people in the sovereign movement have a really hardcore fundamentalist, born-again type Christian mentality about it, based on how they feel the foundation of the country was started, how things were meant to be. This was supposed to be a, quote, Christian nation. Now, from my perspective, and I won't go into this right now, but there were the Native Americans that were here first, who most definitely, certainly were not Christian. They were introduced to that concept. And they were here before, they were here as part of the America before the United States was formed. So, just to throw that out there. So, I'm going to put that topic aside right now because it makes me angry, and I think it's very counterproductive to the overall sovereign movement. And unfortunately, that word sovereign itself sort of comes from a Christian place. So, I dislike using the word. I just wanted to point out, the people that are involved in this are trying to restore America to something that the layperson could most closely associate to perhaps libertarian type ideals. They want government. They just want honest government, and they want a government that follows their own laws, and they do not want a government that is immune from anything that they do, which is what we have going on right now. We have public officials such as cops and judges who can do just about anything that they want, and through their, quote, official immunity, have complete civil and criminal liability protection. They won't be held accountable for anything that they do unless there's public outcry, and that's the only exception. And how often does public outcry happen? Almost never. Almost never. Something has to go viral. Something big has to happen in order for something to happen to these people. Now, if you look up the Commission on Judicial Conduct, that's an official organization you can complain to about the conduct of judges. Look at the percentage of judges that are reprimanded for their behavior. It is infinitesimal. I believe it's far below even 1% of the time are judges ever reprimanded for what they're doing, and when they are, it's nothing but a slap on the wrist. The only time you ever hear about judges getting into trouble is if they get caught engaged in child porn or some sort of severe crime like that. That's outside of that, they are able to do whatever they want to in the courtrooms and get away with it without having any worries whatsoever, even if they completely disregard the law. A quick example I'll use, because I could go on this topic forever, because I've seen it so many times, excuse me, is if you go into traffic court, say, and we're expecting to be able to execute the civil procedure, since we know it's not criminal, even though they're making us do this not guilty thing, which suggests that it is criminal, it's quasi-criminal. Judges actually say that out loud, which always cracks me up and disgusts me, because what they're saying is and I'll never forget, this one judge said it with a real smirk. He said it's quasi-criminal. He almost wanted to mock the person that was in front of him. Quasi-criminal. I'll never forget it. He enunciated the word strongly, as if to suggest you are an idiot. This is quasi-criminal. It means we're pretending it's criminal. It means we're faking you out. We're committing a fraud against you, you stupid dope standing in front of me, and we can do whatever we want up here, and I am your God. And that's the exact mentality he had. And he is, in fact, God in his courtroom, because he can send you to jail for contempt whenever he wants without any liability for anything he wants. So it really is disgusting, and I would think most Americans would not support self-designated gods in our courtrooms. And this is one of the things that the sovereign people get upset about. Now, back to my example. It's easy to show in any traffic-based courtroom action against you the flaws in the due process. They are rampant. If the traffic, a big one is if the traffic court is indeed a civil matter, well, instead of giving away everything here, I'll just say, why don't you go look up civil procedure and note, does the traffic court follow that civil procedure in their own laws, or does it not? And if it does not, call them on it and see what happens. They will just say, without using these words, we don't care, boom, pay your fine and your surcharge. That's exactly how they operate. The sovereign movement people want to know why they do this. They don't like it because they feel government officials should follow their own laws, and then they get angry at the public officials and the ignorant Americans who defend it and say, no, they're in the right, you're in the wrong. And you will never, ever get the answers from prosecutors or judges as to why they can violate these laws without any repercussions and have you pay the consequences for it. That is what the sovereign movement is about. The sovereign movement wants to know why, if you're not a government official, why are you as a member of the public supporting these things? And this causes the underlying anger and the hatred and the fighting amongst all of these different tribes. Okay? The sovereign movement wants to know why, and they're asking government officials, and they're asking the apparently extremely ignorant public, why do you support a government that operates beyond its own laws according to the rules they set out for everyone? They are immune and above those laws themselves. Why do you support this? And is this the America that you want, whereby judges, for example, can do whatever they please in a courtroom? And if they can do whatever they please in a courtroom that works against you, how is that a part of legitimate American due process? It isn't, is it? And if it isn't, why would you support that? And if you're claiming that it is a part of due process, explain why, so that the people in the sovereign movement can understand how and why government officials can operate outside of the law without any problem whatsoever. What gives them that right to do so? And enables the people in turn to become the victim of that. I would probably make this the start of a series of videos on this topic, but I wanted to get that underlying foundation down as to why there is this fighting online when it comes to these, quote, sovereign people. Thanks for watching. More videos to come.